Failures are personal, they're not public. Meaning, when I fail, I have the enjoyment of leaning into my addiction of humility, and I love that I've learned and I don't have to make those same pattern mistakes in the future, so I double win. I get another dose of humility, which I achieve for and strive for, and I get a learning that I'm smart enough and capable enough of not repeating. The reason people are scared of failure is because they worry about people's opinions on the outside, their parents, their siblings, and the general public, anonymous people on Twitter and Discord and the world, which is silly because the reality is it's your life, and what you really learn is the reason people are scared of failure is because they have egos. They actually think that their life is that important, that people's judgment of their failures is important. I know, even with my significance of awareness and popularity, success, notoriety, that at the end of the day, I'm just one little speck of 8 billion people on Earth during a little 100-year window on the universe's trajectory of all time. And so I'm humbled by that. And thus, when I fail, that's me with myself, and that has nothing to do with any of you. Has nothing to do with any of you, let alone the people closest to me. It has nothing to do with them. All of a sudden, once failure becomes an insular game, not an external game, failure does not become scary, it actually becomes interesting.
I love how you didn't just try to diminish failure and say it's not failure. You leaned into it.
Correct, Andrew. It's a really interesting insight. People are like, I didn't fail, I learned. Fuck that shit, you failed. I fail. Like I've tried to do an events company at VaynerX for 13 years. I've had 3 stop and starts. Those were failures. Vayner Live failed. I tried to do a sampling company. Vayner Sampling failed. Failure is real. It's awesome. I love that shit didn't work.
Wow. Here's a follow-up. I'm gonna, unashamedly say this is my follow-up. When do you know to shut something down or look for an exit strategy when things are maybe, when on the other side of failure, you know it, but in the middle of it,
you don't.
Entrepreneurs. Okay.
Yeah,
how do you think through that?
Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of faces here. Charles, Matt Mazia, a lot of people I respect. We've all done good and bad in that, right? God, you don't know, right? We sold empathy wines to Constellation right before COVID. If we waited 6 months, we would have done better because everybody was paying more for DTC brands, right? So we were wrong, even though we had a massive exit. You don't know, you're guessing. But I would tell for a lot of people here, if you're starting to actually burn out, meaning you don't enjoy it anymore, one thing I'm always fearful of is the following scenario, and this one will land, Andrew, for you and many others. Okay, should I sell this because I'm really actually not liking it anymore? I've got this $1 million, $10 million, $13 million offer on the table, but oh fuck, I know that for the next 24 months, I can drive this train. I'll eat a little more shit, but I can sell it for 25 million. A lot of people do that, and sometimes it works out. The problem is, other times the recession comes, interest rates go up, VCs stop funding, and your 10 million offer goes to 0. I have many friends, publicly known people, who passed on massive exits only to then do an acqui-hire and make pennies on the dollar for spending another 2.5 years being unhappy. So to me, the only practical answer to your question is selling it when you're not liking it. Because you don't know if it's gonna be financially better or financially worse because it's out of your control. But you do know that you've sustained for the last year unhappiness driving it, so you should sell it.
How do you get yourself into the mindset to be able to kick through any doors or people who have said you can't do something? This is from Steve O'Brien.
Steve, I think for me, it was a journey of losing a lot as a child. I was an immigrant, I didn't speak the language, so it was hard for me to, make friends when I first got to America. Then I was a bad student, so all my teachers said, no, you're a failure, bad, push against. I wasn't, after about 3rd or 4th grade, it was clear to me that I was not remarkable at sports. So there wasn't that thing that a lot of kids rely on. So I basically lived a life with a lot of adversity and a lot of no You know, my parents didn't buy me things. Mom, I want Nintendo. No. You know, like my life was about no. And so it was very easy once I became an adult to be comfortable in no. For a lot of you, my children included, no was, you were in the business of yes, you know, and in that became the vulnerability because no seemed scary, foreign. So I think the biggest way for you or anybody else at a more advanced stage of not being a child anymore is getting into the practice of losing and doing no's, trying things that are hard to you, doing things that require no. People need to have a relationship with no, and that is only something that either you are serendipitously growing up with and or something that you manufacture for yourself when you get older by putting yourself in uncomfortable positions so that you become more comfortable with rejection. It's ironic you asked that question. Literally, my Instagram post that I snuck in while I was doing the interview with Emma, because I multitask, you might have saw me looking down at some point. Literally this post that I just posted is that people are too addicted to positive reinforcement. You're smart, you're pretty, that's awesome. Once you believe that, you become susceptible to negative reinforcement. So Niall, the reason I'm able to deal with pushback and no is actually when Emma introduces me and says all those nice things, I don't believe them. I don't know how else to say it. When I hear that I'm a 5-time New York Times bestseller, that's funny to me because I failed all my English and writing classes. When I hear, you know, when Emma says something like, you've actually made a dent in this global advertising, you know this, Niall, you were with us very early on. That's funny. We were like a ragtag group of 50 people that just were sitting in an office, right? You know this. So for me, I don't get high on my accomplishments, which allows me to not get low on when I'm dealing with negativity. I just keep it very zen, very in the middle. Like, I'm aware of what I've got going on and where it's going. And I'm also aware that I'm 44 years old, which means I have a lot of time to build on this. And it can end up being in a very crazy place, not financially, on impact. I'm well known at this point and I'm just starting. So I know that kind of, God willing, with health and all that, you know, my destiny at some level is for some pretty big bridges, but that will never make me think that I'm better than somebody or I'm greater than, which allows me then to then deal with the negativity that comes along with that much notoriety. And I like that. I like that I don't get too high and I don't get too low. It's all about fear, my friend KP. Like, people are scared to reach out to somebody. People are scared to network with people because they're worried about being, you know, declined. I get this. Like, you know, in high school, I was scared to like ask the prettiest girl out because I didn't want the no. No's are scary. But in business, I've never had that. And so, you know, it's just the truth, right? It's just the truth. Like, how do you
ever go away, like the fear of rejection?
Yes, by practicing. What people don't understand, and this is where modern parenting lost their way, the last 30 years, modern parenting tried to eliminate the taste of losing and it demonized losing and it demonized people saying no, and so now people are fully scared of it. The way to get there is by getting a ton of no's. No is good, so it's kind of like anything, swimming, riding a bike, hooking up, all the things that we were scared of through life, you got better at it the more you did it. And so like, you need to ask people like, do you want to have a business meeting? And they don't reply to your DM or your email. That's good. The amount of people that are mad at me in the world right now for not replying to their email is probably quite high. But the reality is I'm just one human being and I get 10,000 of them a day. I can't get there. And the weird part is, it's actually probably equally as good that I'm not replying to them as if they actually got the 15 minutes because it's another at bat of getting a no. You just speak to truth. The number one thing that people struggle with is bullshit. You know that. Hey, nothing's gonna change. And then like 4 months later, there's like posters for the first time ever put up in the walls of the company saying, we do it for like some bullshit corporate jargon. Like, see, that changed. Yeah, Josh, I'll be honest with you, bro. I can tell you my entire career is what you just said in the chat. All my shortcomings were being too kind and not having candor. Mine was the reverse. I needed the candor part, not the kind part. I didn't care about money enough. I still don't. I just like playing entrepreneur more. So like,
is that a self-awareness thing?
It's a huge self-awareness thing.
Yeah,
but you know, it's a huge self-awareness thing, and I had to see what was not working in my personal and professional life, and like decided that I want the next 40 years to be better than my last 40 years, you know? Professionally. I was started working at 6, I'd say, because I did lemonade. So, you know, yeah, 100%. And it's never fun when things are working super well and you have 90% great relationships, but like, you're either trying to be better or you're not, and I wanted to be better.
Fantastic. I want to open it up to the group. I want to make sure, is there any other questions? I know we're winding down on time here with Gary. We got a couple more minutes. So any other questions from the group? I got one more, but I want to make sure that we get everyone.
Yeah, and don't be shy, group.
All right, I'm going to jump in with mine, Gary, because so I have.
Group, I'm very upset with all of you. Just so you know, I'm very upset, group. Go ahead, Jim.
No, that's fine. Please call them out on it. So that means I don't have to later on here. So,
well, you know what's funny? It's funny though, Jim, no bullshit. Like, I really think a lot about this. Like, all I think about actually is people worrying about other people's opinions about themselves. The singular reason most people don't unmic and ask a question is a subconscious belief of what will the rest of them think of the question. It's really fascinating. You know, I put out a book recently and I talked about the concept of kind candor. And I spoke how candor, ironically, Garyvee, the content producer, incredibly candorous. Some of you maybe have seen my videos. Gary Vaynerchuk, the operator, struggled with candor because I demonized it as something that scared people. And I really struggled with it for about 20 years. But then I rebranded it to myself, and now I call it kind candor because I realized the shortcomings of it. When people don't know where they stand, they actually are more scared. I used to not be as candorous because I would take on all the pressure and I didn't want people to be scared because I got it. A little bit of a superhero syndrome, right? Because that's how I did it for my family business and everything I've ever done. But what I realized is when a business has to make tough decisions and it comes out of dead left field, it actually could be extremely detrimental. And so alluding to what you're saying right now, look, I think all of us are very aware that it may be challenging next year. Like, we may actually be in the biggest era of layoffs that we've seen since 2008. That is in play. It may not happen, who knows, but it's definitely in play. And I know it's in the air, and who knows what it means for bonuses and all that. And integrating on that kind of M&A deal, I have a lot of empathy for that, Jim. That makes a lot of sense. Duplication, blah, blah, blah. Even if things were great, that's a time of changing, a lot of integration issues. I really do believe kind candor is the best thing you can do, which is speak truth, but come from incredible levels of compassion, and speak to things you actually control. So I think a thing that big executives, senior executives, leaders make a mistake of is they want to say that we're gonna be people first and we're gonna do the best we can, but they don't have the full control. And they put themselves in precarious spots if that's true, right? You know, and so.
Very, very well said, Gary, with that. And I think one of the things with that, you know, where do you jump in and know, like, hey, what's in my control? Because, you know, as a leader too, right, you want to protect your people. You want to make sure that you're trying to deflect anything that they might not.
So let me tell you something that I do that is insane.
Yeah.
That you all will have a better way of doing than I do it, and I still do it. Check this one out. I have no board. I'm not a publicly traded company. I have full control of the company. I have all the say. And yet I still have certain meetings with people through the last 15 years where I say, listen, Gary Vaynerchuk, the CEO of VaynerX, can't tell you without a shadow of a doubt whether this is gonna go X, Y, or Z. Cannot, even though I have all control, right? Because the economy may collapse and we may lose our 7 biggest clients in 24 hours and I may need to save the company and do a layoff. Gary Vaynerchuk, the human being, is telling you right now, Jim B, to your face, that if God forbid something atrocious happens, I am your first person and I will spend 7 hours at night on LinkedIn trying to get you on your feet. If I can do that, where I have all the control, and the person looks at me saying, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't have to fire me. What are you doing? What are you talking about? Well, then you guys can definitely do that. And so there's a level of you, the executive, and you, the human, that if you play it right and hit the right crescendo, can bring incredible value to your team. It's incredibly nuanced, and I don't even recommend it for everyone because you may not want the emotional burden, but it is a for instance of doing something slightly different than the norms of the way people do business. If you're willing to deliver on that. The reason it works for me is when I say it, which always pisses me off when I say it because then I know I have a double burden, I do it.
We definitely appreciate that, Gary. Let me ask this.
And you know what that's, by the way, team, there's such a small group here, you know what that combo's relegated to? The person you really bleed for. You can't do that for everybody, but there might be one or two people that you really, really have something with, and like you really mean it, and if you're gonna do it, really brings them a lot of peace of mind and eliminates fear during a time of uncertainty. The reason I created Kind Candor is I have absolutely watched the world use radical candor as an opportunity to not be nice. The end. Radical candor has given permission to people who do not have emotional intelligence or compassion a free hall pass to be borderline nasty at worst and indifferent at best. Kind Candor sets the tone real fast. I was stunned how quickly my organization got good at it. Even the people that I feel are not compassionate or sympathetic and are not emotional intelligence leaders, even they got good at it. They went from F's to C's, and all the C's went to A minuses, and the whole company changed. It's amazing what one word can do.
Well said.
Right, just think about it. Even think about the concept of radical candor versus kind candor. It just feels different when you even say it. So that's how I see it different, Josh. That's how it's played out for us. You know, I'm an immigrant from Belarus, which, you know, unfortunately for their actions is now a place people know. And came to the US in '78, was very poor. You know, that's really the only way to put it. We had 9 family members in a studio apartment. I really need people to wrap their head around what I'm saying. So it was really hardcore stuff for a couple of years. And then, you know, I have good DNA. So my dad and mom worked their butts off, and my dad got a job as a stock boy in a liquor store. And to this day, you know, it's funny, I asked my team today, my content team, to dig up every piece of content that we can find where I talk about saving money. And I talk about it all the time, and nobody ever talks about it to me. When I tell you, like, if you asked my 5,000 hardest core content consumers, name things Gary talks about, I promise you it would be an hour before they talk about saving money, even though I'm about to put out a video that has me mentioning it 115 times in the last 2 years. So, you know, I learned that early on because I watched my family really get out of poverty to middle class in a short period of time by literally not spending a penny on anything but food and shelter. You know, I've been saying something lately, Brandon, that I think might make sense to what we talk about. And, you know, I've come to believe that if somebody is born in a home with little, but with a lot of love around it, they are the most prepared for a happy life because they're taught subconsciously at a young age that money is not the variable of happiness. So as you were asking the question, I'm like, that's where my brain went. I'm like, man, what was my surroundings? The perfect storm for what I think is a really good framework for life, which is, you know, like an all-time mom who just loved me to death, but also really extenuated and focused on the things I was good at, but held me accountable to things that I wasn't good at, but didn't make me feel like I sucked because I wasn't good at it, which is crazy because the thing I wasn't good at is the core thing, which was school. Like if you think about how we judge kids before they're 18 years old, outside of think about this. We basically judge children in modern society for the last 75 years, predominantly on school, occasionally on sports, physical appearance, but those are like the 3 or 4 things kids hear about. Like that's just like it. And so I was very fortunate. My mom was way ahead of her time and really focused on pointing out how naturally kind I was. And then on the flip side, not only were we not really wealthy, but my mom was cheap. She's still cheap, right? And so me and my sister had an aha moment 5 years ago. We're like, wait a minute. We got out of being like poor pretty quick. We were lower middle class for a while. We were in middle class for a while. We're even, towards the end, we're even like starting to go to that next chapter. And yet mom never bought anything for us. And we never went on a family vacation. And we never had the swag or anything. And so we were like razzing her a little bit. We're like, you could have given us a little something. But what that did was it taught me that if I was hungry, I had to hunt for my own food. And so I was lemonade stands, washing car. I mean, more than half my days of my childhood in the summer, I either was playing sports outside or I was ringing people's doorbells trying to get $1 some way. Can I wash your car? Can I shovel your driveway? Do you want to buy this stuff that I found outside? Like whatever it took. And so I'm a 46-year-old man that has a platform now, and I look at the things that come out of my mouth, and sometimes I step out of my own self and I'm like, man, this is just my childhood and how I was parented. And so there wasn't even a conversation when we were kids about entrepreneurship. We didn't even know the word existed. It was college, the end. So I was told I was a loser my whole life because I was a really bad student. But it was because I was so passionate about my entrepreneurship that I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even conform. I'm no dummy. I'm a pretty bright kid. But I couldn't even conform to get C's. My mom used to beg me. She's like, you're so smart. Just get a C. I'm like, I can't. I'm not going to listen to a thing in class. I'm not going to do homework. I'm not going to take the test. I need every ounce of energy. I didn't say this. I said it to myself, and I didn't even really say it to myself. It took me years after I was a little bit older to realize this is what was happening. I just needed to work on my craft. When Malcolm Gladwell came out with that 10,000 hours concept, I was laughing. I was like, man, I was at 10,000 hours by the time I was 16. Which is why a lot of the things that happened in my career make sense. By the time I took over my daddy's liquor store at 22, I was a veteran in business. Of course it went from 3 to 65 million in a heartbeat. It sounds crazy when it's a 23, 24-year-old kid, right? And not valuation like the new world, no, revenue, like I built it. But by the time I was there, I was refined. I was a real operator. And so I knew it early, but let me tell you what I've extracted out of that will make sense for everybody, that might bring value to everybody. I actually believe everybody on this call right now knows what their passion is. I believe they talk themselves out of it because they think it's silly or it won't make money. This is a very big thought I've been working on in my lab. This is one of the first times I'm putting it out there. I've said it here and there a little bit, but this is the first time I'm really it is deep, Anthony. I think all of you know. It is deep, Anthony. I think all of you know. Yes, Catherine, this is good. This is good stuff. I think you love music, cooking, skiing, the Transformers, hip hop, sneakers, sailing, golf. I think you know that. I know you know that. I just don't think you can make a profession out of it, or what you really love is some silly shit. Like if you really went into like some full lie detector stuff, somebody's answer might be the Power Rangers, and that might just seem too silly. Yet I believe if the Power Rangers, the cartoon, the thing from back in the day, if you went ham and made content, YouTube videos, a podcast, NFTs, social media content, I know for a fact you could make $100,000 a year through brand deals, selling hoodies, speaking, but people are scared of other people's judgment. When I was 20 and 17 and 15, most of my friends' number one passion was video games. Nobody not even myself, thought video games was a profession back then. If one of my friends had the conviction to heed the call that I'm saying out loud today, they would be a pioneer in the video game industry, making 6 figures, doing the thing they love more, instead of being a retailer, executive, or a lawyer. I'm very passionate about this. I believe people know their passion. I think people are scared to live within humble means. This is a big one, Brand. I think people are scared to live a life that means that they make $63,000 a year because we've lost our way of living within our means. We need to redefine success in our society. We need to redefine success. I know unlimited, miserable millionaires. Unlimited. I can name 500 if you gave me an hour. And I know friends that make less than $80,000 a year that are genuinely deeply happy. And we must educate the world about this truth. Can you get out of the thing that almost everyone's stuck in, which is living their life based on somebody else's opinion? Whether that's the masses, because listen, every one of us had some level of adversity in our childhood which led to a chip on our shoulder. Whether you were given too much and you want to pretend you weren't put on third base, that's a chip. Or you were given so little that you fucking have to climb. Everyone's coming from that place, and it just becomes one humongous fucking game of high school, and you're still 32 years old, 29 years old, 44 years old, 64 years old, acting like we're still fucking in high school, trying to be cool in front of the fucking popular kids. Makes no fucking sense, and it needs to stop. As long as America and most of the rest of the world continues to put money on a pedestal, we will have deep unhappiness. As long as success is predicated on shit you buy, we're gonna fucking lose. We just have to get out of this. We have to get out of it because everyone's like, oh, so much more suicide. It's gotta be social media. It's not. It's the continuous consumerization and having self-worth wrapped up in products and opinions of other people. Instagram isn't leading to depression, you're depressed. This cop-out that is the current conversation, it's this fault. Good news, if you're fucking sad and insecure, you can throw this out. I promise you're still gonna be sad as fuck and insecure as fuck. To not make money is to go into an industry that you think there's money in, but you have no interest or knowledge of it. And I see people do that every day. People roll up, Gary, I'm gonna be in social media. I'm like, cool, where you at? They're like, well, first, I don't have it yet, but it's gonna be huge. I'm like, wait, you don't even use it? No, but you're killing it. I'm like, cool. That's like me rolling up on LeBron and be like, yo, I'm going to the Hall of Fame. You're doing it, so I'm gonna fucking pick up a basketball and do it. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So, I don't know, just a lot of swirling, but most of it is the reason you're not posting is you're worried what people are gonna say, and you've decided in your own head who's gonna listen to me and why would they. That is where I'm at. I am really focused on that. This whole notion of people saying no for themselves before they've even started on some that's how you were parented or that's the environment you grew up in stuff is very, very real to me and something I'm trying to chip away at, which is have the humility to figure out that let the market decide if you're good or not. And more importantly, don't front. Don't talk about shit you don't know. Watching people try to talk about stuff they don't know is wild. It's so, think about the shit you actually know something about, and then you get into some conversation or you see somebody post about it, and you know they don't know, it's like a weird feeling. You don't like them, right? You don't like them, and I'm watching people trying to fake it. Fake it till you make it with some 1987 shit. It's a lot harder now because while you're faking, it's getting documented, and that's bad. Right? Like, the app Byte came out from the people that did Vine, and people were rushing to say it was gonna be the next big thing because they were guessing with the hope that it would be so they could show the video in 3 years. But the problem is, what if it's not? There's nothing I'm about to say that you haven't heard from me. You know, I'm like fucking Aerosmith. Like, I'm gonna play the same fucking song, you know exactly what's coming. You know exactly, there's no fucking surprises tonight, El Paso. There's no surprises. It's very consistent. It is, are you bringing value to an audience that compels them to do something that you want? The reason nobody's growing, why am I not growing? Because every post you put out is selfish. Nobody gives a fuck that you bought a new fucking outfit. Like, I was at the Super Bowl this weekend, like 8,000 people are like, Gary, you can't fucking grow. Is Instagram broken? I'm like, no, you're broken. You're gonna post 6 pictures during this Super Bowl. One with a Hall of Famer, one with a rapper, one at a cool party. Nobody gives a fuck. The reason so many people are consuming less is because you don't want the FOMO that you're not at the Super Bowl with Lil Yachty. Like, I don't understand how people don't get this. We live in a deeply selfish state of trying to flex in front of people, which brings that person absolutely no value. Every single post I put out, I'm like, why would somebody look at this? What is in it for you? Why would you like this? Why is this good for you? I'm gonna fly private home tonight. You're not gonna see that photo. You see none of those photos. People posting photos of them flying private does dick for you. Yeah. What are you trying to tell me? That you can afford a nice outfit? Like, what are you doing? So, this is one big game of self-awareness, self-confidence, and insecurity. Where do you have those 3 things mapped? Do you even understand what you're good at? Because I'm 44, and being an entrepreneur sucked shit 20 years ago. Nobody wanted to be it. If you were it, you were a loser. The word barely exists. Now it's cool as fuck. Now you're a fucking great student, you're a great operator, you were destined to be a tremendous lawyer or COO, but no, you have to have the Uber of fucking towels. Like, everybody's got their own idea. Like, you're gonna start the next big brand, right? Like, this is what happens. We go through cycles, so are you self-aware? Like, do you actually understand what makes you happy and what are you good at? You know, it's really funny, this one guy, I love reading comments, I get so much information, and you obviously get your fair share of hate. This one guy's like, okay, Garyvee, like, you keep showing these videos from 10 years ago. First of all, you looked like shit, cool. Second of all, you know, like, cool that you're showing this, like, why don't you show all the videos of the stuff you got wrong? So I was like, replied to him, like, bro, it's all there. Why don't you show me the videos of what I got wrong? I'm not gonna talk about Byte the day it comes out and predict it's gonna be the next platform. As a matter of fact, everyone's like, I actually started with it. I actually don't think I see around corners or have intuition. I think it already happened and I'm willing to jump in when it happened, and most people are scared to jump into something when it first happened because most people are built on fear. Everyone's like, first of all, I start talking about TikTok, 98% of the reactions are complete cynicism. How much equity do you own in TikTok? 0, dick. 0. I'm playing for reputation out here, not fucking a couple of shares to make some money. 0. And then everyone's like, you're crazy, this is stupid. At the time, they only know their 11-year-old niece is on it. And then, like, everything that's ever happened to me a year later, everyone's on it. And then they're like, man, you're so smart, you're a genius. I'm like, I'm not. It already had a fucking billion users on it when I started talking about it. I didn't predict TikTok. It was humongous. It was humongous when I started getting serious about it. Snapchat, when I started talking about it, early too, that was the last thing that some of you might have saw before this. It was humongous. I was waiting for DJ Khaled. TikTok, I was waiting for Charlie. I'm waiting for the cultural moment that I know can take it to the next spot. I was on Twitter for a year. It wasn't until Ashton Kutcher went on CNN and challenged CNN to see who got to 1 million first that's when I knew, okay, here we are. There's always a moment. That's what I'm good at. I may be good at understanding the moment when something's gonna go to that next place. For you to get what you want in your life and business, you have to give the other people the thing they want so that you get what you want. I call it 51-49. Basically, every relationship I have, every business dealings I have, and the way I frame up my entire being, it's why I have popularity or cult of personality. It's because I think it's smart to give more to an audience than you ask for in return. And so when you're building your product and your service and whatever you're up to, you need to find the angle of leverage. You are competing with a lot of other people that want people's attention. When I started working with Budweiser, the beer, it was crazy to me. I walked into a meeting and I said, you know, okay, we're competing with Miller or Carlsberg. We're competing, right? We're competing with, and they said, we're comparing for share of throat. Budweiser globally worries about how much water you're drinking, how much Coca-Cola you're drinking. I mean, it was just really interesting, and it was kind of how I think about attention. You may be thinking you're competing against somebody else who has a trampoline business. You're not. You're competing against anybody who has anything else to do that weekend in Denmark with those 4 hours. So we are living through a world, my friends, where there's more options than ever. How many people here manage, how many people here have more than 10 employees? Raise your hands, right? We're living in a world where our employees have more options than ever, either to do things for themselves or other employers. And no matter how good your labor laws are and how long they have to stay with you before they go to the new job, they still have options greater than there were 10 or 15 years ago. So I think the biggest thing that I think a lot about is supply and demand. It is such a simple, basic business trade. And it's something I'm very intuitive towards. And it is basically how I think about everything, how I manage my people, how I create my business, how I treat my customers. It is a supply and demand world, and you need to understand that the cost of creating things that can pull our customers' attentions away from us has gotten so low that there is so much supply. There is so much supply of information and videos and pictures that this is the reason that I believe that advertising, not that it's dead, but the thought that you're gonna put out something that is selfishly in your interest and you're gonna get somebody to actually pay attention to it with the technology advances that we have today and with all the supply of information is almost impossible. And every day that goes by, it will become more impossible. So, number one, first and foremost, I need people to start thinking that they're a media company and a publisher more than they're an advertiser for their business. That the skill set that I think so many people will get in the future to succeed is, how do I put a piece of content? How do I make a white paper? How many people here are B2B? Raise your hands. Great. So for your world, how do you make a white paper that's 6 pages deep, a presentation on Skillshare, then post on LinkedIn, because Skillshare is owned by LinkedIn, and when you use Skillshare on LinkedIn, more people organically see it. Tactic. How do you make a Skillshare that gives people value, and it's not a sales deck for somebody to sign up for a free trial in your landing page optimized funnel so that you then become a client? It is just black and white, an incredible piece of information that all the construction workers, that all the lawyers, that all the CTOs in your target audience will get value out. And basically what I'm saying very carefully to all of you is, when I wrote Jab, 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 Right Hook and the Thank You Economy, they were the 2 titles. There was a 3rd title I never used. It was called Guilt Marketing. I basically believe that the place that we're going is, unless you guilt your audience into doing business with you because you provided so much upfront value, that you will get suffocated over the next decade or 2 of opportunities for the end consumer. And so that what I do every day is think about that. You have to wrap your head around the game you're playing in, which is the following. There is more information created now in 24 hours than used to be created in decades only 50 years ago. Like, let's just stick with me here. There is more content being created in 24 hours than used to be created in the decades of the 50s and 60s. Now, do you feel as good about your documentary? Do you feel as good about your poster? It gets hard when you actually understand what the fuck is actually happening here. And so what I believe is happening for all the business owners in here and entrepreneurs is that you need to wrap your head around the mindset of how you get yourself into a place of accepting this and then acting on it. And how does it become practical? The reason I brought up interns earlier is there's always supply and demand. When something emerges, other opportunity happens. Amazon, scaring everybody in retail in America and other parts of the world, right? Amazon is in the wine business. They bought Whole Foods. They now have liquor licenses in every state. Everybody at my dad's company, Wine Library, scared. Me, excited. Why? Not because I'm a character or I'm trying to act cool. Because I go on Amazon's site and I find wines that Amazon has that we're selling for less. And then I send emails to customers that say cheaper than Amazon, which is true. And then from a branding standpoint, it makes them think we're incredible because nobody's cheaper than Amazon on anything. And even though Amazon is gonna take market share, they're not gonna take it from me. In every single thing that happens, I just said more content in 24 and 48 hours than in decades. Ooh, shit, how are people gonna watch my stuff? Meanwhile, more creators that are talented than we've ever seen before. Every single person here should write a blog post, send an email, make a video or make an audio piece of content tomorrow, hiring 3 content producers as interns or the lowest possible cost you can pay them based on the laws in this country tomorrow. You immediately have a media company at remarkably low price, including if it's allowed free, depending on the rules. And that's what you should be thinking about. Because if you do not wrap your head around that you were a media company first, I don't care what you do. If you do not wrap your head around that you were a media company first, comma, a lawyer, comma, a designer, comma, a sneaker salesman. If you do not understand that you were a media company, your business, like the earlier questions, you don't have to become a personal brand, but that means your logo of your company has to become a brand that produces content that actually has value to the target audience that you're trying to set. Now, don't take it very direct. Let me give you an example. I have a lawyer friend who's starting a golf podcast. He's starting a podcast around golf once a week. He's interviewing golfers, golf in the business, but he's a lawyer looking for other people to hire him as a lawyer. His strategy is that the people that are actively hardcore about golf in America are high net worth individuals who can afford the law practice that he provides. So that if he makes something that those doctors and other business people want to listen to, golf, that because it's brought to you by this law firm, he will get the residual business. Now, my friends, this is actually a tactic that is hundreds of years in the making and uniquely European. Let me explain. The Guinness Beer Company. The Guinness Beer Company started the Guinness Book of World Records because pub sales were down and they wanted them to grow. And they did surveying and realized that people talked about trivia in the pubs, and they decided to create the Guinness Book of World Records so that people in the pubs would talk about the crazy world records, reinforce the Guinness brand, and then order a pint of Guinness. Michelin. The reason you've gone to a 2 or 3 star Michelin restaurant is because almost 100 years ago, the Michelin Tire Company wanted rich people from London and Paris to start driving to the countryside and stop by the gas stations and use up their tires, so they bought new ones. So they started favorably reviewing restaurants, hotels, and inns in the countryside, and then making a book that drove propaganda and media to the rich in those towns, and people started going there for the best foie gras. media as marketing for business results. What is old becomes new, and that, in a framework, is the new strategy that I think has the biggest upside for every business in here, regardless of what you do.
Do you have a mentor yourself or a mastermind group of people you meet on a regular basis and discuss business matters with?
Nope.
Nope.
And
how's that for a good question?
And this is interesting. I'm trying to figure out if I can bring you value in this. Nor have I ever. My mentor is you. It is far better for you to look up to the 31 people that leave comments on your shit than to watch me more. My mentor is the market. My mentor is your attentions and your behaviors. So outside of my parents, I've never I don't know anything about any business person ever. I've read 5 books in my life. I'm not part of any group. I consume no content. I consume the market, which is why I see these things, because I watch what you do. You know how Wikipedia and YouTube, you start watching something or reading something and 3 hours later, you're learning about like red-headed Eskimos, right? That's what I do with people. Now, I get a lot of comments now. 70% of it is I'm the greatest fucking thing of all time, which feels nice. 10% of it is I'm a piece of shit. And then the 20%, there's people trying to leave something thoughtful. Of that 20%, 5% of it is thoughtful. They figured it out, they got it, and then I click their face. Who else do they follow? Oh, they're getting tricked by that one, but they got this, why? Oh, why are they taking pictures of, music festivals? Why are they drinking beer? Why is craft beer moving? And 7 hours later, I have a pulse on something that's happening in the ecosystem. I didn't invest in Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr by accident. I'm not hanging out with the hip hop stars that are the next Kanye and Drake by accident. I'm doing real hardcore research of the thing that matters. You're my mentor. Let's break it down because it's going to matter for everyone in the room. So introverted versus extroverted, or however you want to paint it. Let's go higher. Are you worried about judgment?
No, I mean, I don't really give a fuck
Okay.
about what people say. I just...
Do you not have the ideas? Because that's something that something I've been thinking a lot more about. And some of you have consumed my content for a long time. Even my own team is hearing this for the first time. Even Andrew, who films me, I've been thinking a lot about the ideas. I've come to realize that I took for granted how easy ideas are for me. We talked about this the other day for Vayner and Sasha. So this is one of the reasons I've started doing green screen content. Again, making assumptions that some of you are paying close attention to me and others aren't. Green screen, have you seen this? Where I take a headline from an article and then I'm over it and I'm talking. Early on when TikTok was popping, something I said that I stopped talking about that I'm gonna start talking more about is these platforms are now helping people with training wheels. Like when I first started YouTube, it was like camera, post. Now with all the filters, all the features, the music, the this and that, these platforms are really trying to put you in a position to be able to make the content. The reason I like green screen a lot is for a lot of people here, no matter, I just listened, actually I'm gonna take us back, everybody here can speak as a commenter on top of an article within their field, whether that's private equity or influencer marketing or food or raising capital. Almost everyone here, I woke up, had an idea. I think having a grudge might be the great poison of our society. I've been thinking about this lately a lot. That if you actually are a human being who is currently sitting with a grudge, that it's actually destroying you on an everyday basis. So I was interested in that, and normally the way I would do it would be, I would make, again, I think all of you know, the grudge, I rant and post. White title, grudges are bad, away we go. What I did instead with this new behavior, and I've got a point here for everyone, is I Googled articles about grudges, scientific and things of that nature. Now I'm a little scared because I know I don't want to be a headline reader and just take something that might be a bullshit article, so it's a little challenging. but this is lightweight enough. It's not like I'm making a scientific claim or and so one thing that I'm trying to tap into for you is potentially the concept of, is it the ideas? Indoor cat, outdoor cat speaks to putting out stuff. Most common people are actually insecure about judgment, and whether it's physical appearance, do they really know, imposter syndrome, things of that nature, or just really are at that place in their life where 2 or 3 negative comments can really throw them into a snowball. If I could sense that. So then it might be about the ideas.
Yeah, because I know what I did, and my whole thing is, I want to help other women who are just like me,
I'm gonna jump in here. What you've done is the only thing I do for a living for the last 15 years is based off of what I've done. I've just gotten good at making it more macro than a focus group of one.
Yeah.
It's the starting point. The only thing that you need to do in those scenarios is not be fearful of, well, wait a minute, this is I, and understand how much of this is we. Like even 4Ds, this is a meta situation. I'm answering your question, but trust me, I'm throwing this at everybody because there's different versions of it for everyone. So I think not fearing speaking from a place of one and understanding how most things are universal and just changing some of the words of I to we may give you a starting point. When I think about 100 pieces of content a day, and this is great because it seems like you're grounded in Twitter more than many because you were part of that era with me.
Yeah.
I think Twitter is an incredibly important part of the 100-piece concept. Obviously this is catching and I'm getting asked about it more. So this is a great opportunity to create some clarity. Hopefully the team clicks this. Let's get Rogoff to write a piece, the 100-piece concept 2.0. I think we're working on something, but Twitter's incredibly important. As you know, one of the great things about Twitter is its trending topics and the ability to reply to it with retweeting and adding your 2 cents or typing original thoughts. So for me, one of the things that really stands out is if I was asking the normal quote unquote person to produce 100 pieces of content a day, I guarantee you that I'm probably subconsciously thinking that 50 of those are Twitter. You can write, you can retweet and add your 2 cents. All of a sudden you're kind of there, right? The other thing is, I don't think people understand document versus create. I think people think you need D-Rock or Jason following you, Dustin following you around. I think it's just taking a picture. Like I see content right here. Like I see content in, this is probably my strength. I see content in everything. I think you should take a photo of us talking right now and tweet it and be like, holy shit, I'm doing this with Garyvee right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did. I took
right?
one before you came in.
But there's Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And this is New York. I think there's a lot more content. And by the way, I think that can be done 15 to 20 times on Twitter, Instagram stories, and TikTok without any cost to the preciousness that is the main reason that everybody can't make 100 pieces of content.
Okay.
Taking a photo of what you see and adding 1 sentence is allowing people into your world, and you start creating around common interests. A lot of people are like, Gary, should I separate my business and life? I'm like, I put my Jets content in all my content. I put my garage sales stuff there. That has nothing to do with the marketing or the business running. I think it's there, but I do think it's a strategy mindset. And I think everybody thinks this is useless and nobody would care. And I think you should let them decide. I think when you think something I think when you think, you know what? I wish I was closer with my sister. And I'm gonna start working on that. That should be a tweet. That one should tweet you know what? I've been underestimating sibling relationships and I'm gonna work on that in 2020. That's a piece of content. And then you're walking into a restaurant and a fast casual place and there's 23 people lined up to the hottest place in downtown Alabama or New York, and you take a photo and be like, I guess cronuts are hot. That's a piece of content. And if you're more visually artistic than, I love when the sunset hits some avenue in fucking New York and everybody's taking a photo of that and I have no interest. Even though I'm into this content thing, I'm like, fuck that. First of all, I don't get it because I don't give a fuck about a sunset. But I know that people do.
Or mountains.
Or what, I'm looking at the creative guys in front of me here and gals. I know that they see beauty in a puddle catching a mini rainbow in it, that I'm not that kind of artist, but I'm an artist in a different way where somebody having a funny name on their taxi thing, or what you know, like everything is content.
Do you and I mean, I know there's 100 other people that do it, but I'm most familiar with D-Rock. Like, do you struggle with that with your video people because they want everything to be very artistic?
No, I fucking made them succumb. I beat D-Rock down and reframed him, and then he became the blueprint. Right? I mean, no, I don't. And by the way, this is being yin and yang. And we're sitting here on the day that we released a nice piece of film that's 5 minutes and 50 seconds. And I value that as well. I'd rather go all in on that side once a quarter than every day spending 4 days on post-production on a vlog, you know. So like, you know, I'm like a barbell. I like the extremes to the left and the right. And I think most people are in the middle. So that's how I see that. Are you lacking patience for us to get there?
No, I have all the time in the world.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
It's really for me more mission driven. Like I just want to reach more women, more moms, people that are, you know, I don't have a finance degree. I just taught everything myself.
Well, you will. If it's an altruistic, emotional point of view, it's completely based on patience. I wanted to reach everyone too. Started in 2009. Very few people were watching. More people watch now. How about the fact that in 2022, I know that I haven't even begun reaching how many people I want to reach. Right? It was only in the last couple of years that I'm translating my content into Portuguese. Now people in Brazil and Portugal know who I am, and they didn't 24 months ago. So, you know, I think a lot of times, if you're truly coming from a selfless place, if you are, and I think all of us come from some version of selfish and selfless place. It's being a human being. Then we really are talking about patience. Because there is no hack. I'm not gonna be able to tell you, be like, well, you know, like for example, green screen. Why am I saying that? Because green screen is over-indexing. That video of me talking about grudges would have gotten 400,000 views on Instagram for my current situation. The green screen will get 1.7 million. That's a tactic that I love because one, it's working for people on the other side. Two, the algorithm is clearly seeing that, so it's helping with organic reach. Three, it will help a lot of you make a piece of content in a way that maybe you couldn't otherwise. You have a thought, you don't know what to do in a 1 minute video, but if you Google an article, green screen it, and then speak what you were thinking about that subject matter, now you do have a piece of content.